Hey guys, Mistik here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out one of the coolest new additions to Graal Era that we have gotten over the last few years. Of course, I'm talking about the newly announced and beta tested Battle Royale game mode. The intention for this video is to showcase the new game mode and showcase what the devs have been working on lately, and also create a discussion about it. I want to make sure I hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below, as the devs are probably going to be reading them, and I'm sure they would love some of your guys' input on this game mode as well. It's really important for the community to come together and work on these sort of things when it's going to be such a big addition to the game, and it's going to be content that we're all going to enjoy for years to come. So I guess without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting out, I do want to give a light explanation on what the game mode is and how we actually got to be able to play it. A few weeks ago, they invited a bunch of us out to come test out the new Battle Royale game mode. It was capped at 60 players, and a lot of the players were able to grab a statue and come. I was lucky enough to be able to be specifically invited to this so I could get footage and make a video on it. In total, around 150 people got to try out the game mode, which was a really cool experience, and I was really excited to be a part of it. If you don't already somehow know what a Battle Royale game mode is, it follows the same style as games like Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, and PUBG. In these games, it's basically like a mass last man standing. The basics of it are that you drop down into a map, the circle shrinks so the fighting area is smaller, and there's random loot around the map. These conditions lead to really exciting and fast-paced battles, and eventually, one person is crowned the winner. The Graal Era Battle Royale functions in a very similar way to those other popular games. The first thing that we did was load into a pretty basic lobby that got to explain some of the rules to us, and then we were right into the game. Started like most other Battle Royale games do. We were all loaded into a plane, and then you got to tap the screen when you wanted to get out. You would have your parachute out, and you would slowly fly down into wherever you were wanting to drop. Once you dropped down, your first goal was to get some loot. Loot functions in a also very similar way, except there are no items on the ground. They are all in little loot boxes that are scattered randomly around the map. You simply grabbed one of them and it would explode in a flurry of loot, and then you would pick up whatever you got. The map was actually one of the coolest parts about this. Going into it, I fully expected a pre-built map that they have kind of engineered to be really good for a Battle Royale, but instead what we got was just the original Graal Era map. The only really big difference to this was there was a couple new barricades and such, and they also filled in all of the ocean with new playable map area. As I did mention before, there were only 60 of us dropping into this game mode, as apart to the normal 100 or 150 that we see in some of the other popular games, but this definitely didn't make it feel too empty. One of the biggest concerns I had was it maybe feeling too crowded with Graal Era mechanics, but it definitely felt pretty balanced. The loot within the Battle Royale game mode functions pretty similar to the way it works in PUBG. This includes weapons, healing items, energy items, armor, and backpacks. The weapons, however, do work a little bit differently. There are 3 different main types of weapons, and each of them come along with their own ammo. This includes pistols, shotguns, and rifles. The rifles category is probably the least self-explanatory. It includes snipers and automatic weapons like the AK-47. The pistol and shotgun categories are a lot more self-explanatory and just include pistols and shotguns. These weapons do function a little bit differently than they do on the streets of Graal Era. They do use a similar style as to the laser tag bullets, which kind of impact you instantly and don't really have time to travel or time for you to dodge away from them. There was a lot of criticism on that, and a lot of people wanted them to revert it back to the normal bullet style, so I am interested to see if that stays for the main build of the Battle Royale. Now, as I did only get to play 3 rounds, I didn't have the opportunity to play with every single weapon in the game, but I did get to play with quite a few. It's definitely obvious that the pistols are the weakest of the bunch, but there are some pistols in the game that are pretty strong and can compete with some of the other weapons. However, it is pretty obvious that the shotguns and the rifles kind of run the show. Shotguns in this game mode were so strong and could almost kill people in one hit if they weren't wearing too much armor. And the sniper rifles and rifles were just super strong and super powerful in every situation. The pistols were a bit lacking, but they are kind of start of the game loot. So I guess that is to be expected if that is the direction that they're trying to go. Now moving on to the healing loot, there are 2 different types, health and energy. Health consists of things like bandages and medkits, and these just heal your general health out of 50. Bandages are used to heal a little bit of HP and take 3 seconds for you to use, while medkits heal a lot of HP but unfortunately take 10 seconds of uninterrupted time to complete. The second form of healing in the Battle Royale mode is called energy. This is basically a bar that will slowly fill up your HP passively if you have taken damage. Let's say you're at 40 out of 50 HP and you have some energy left in your bar, you will slowly go up by 1 HP until you have no more energy left. You can replenish your energy by either drinking a soda, which will grant a little bit of energy and take 3 seconds, or by drinking a potion, which will result in a lot of energy, however will take 10 seconds, similar to the medkit. I do really like the healing system, and it does obviously follow the normal Battle Royale mode type feel. However, it does leave you extremely vulnerable when you have to wait 10 seconds to heal. This definitely creates a really extreme risk versus reward situation when it comes to healing in even the mid-game or the end-game. As for the rarity of these items, I didn't really find myself running out of the bandages or the soda too often, and honestly the medkits and potions were pretty bountiful by the end of the game. The next type of loot that you can gain is armor. This comes in 2 different forms, which include a shield and a helmet. These armor pieces vary in levels from 1 to 3 and come with upgraded stats depending on what level you end up getting. This armor is extremely important because without it, you're going to be taking massive amounts of damage, and the armor really helps with mitigating that amount. The final item you can receive, and arguably the most important, are backpacks. These also work similar to armor with the varying levels from 1 to 3. However, these are going to allow you to hold more healing items. Without these, you're not going to be able to hold very many bandages or sodas, and you're going to be running out of space all the time. If you do find yourself lucky enough to acquire a level 3 backpack, you're actually going to be able to hold up to 15 bandages and sodas, which is way more than you're ever going to use within one game. These backpacks are pretty much essential, and they definitely were one of the most exciting things to get, as I knew it would help me so much in late game. Overall, I really enjoyed the amount of loot that was available. Going into it, I definitely expected it to just be a few guns and maybe some healing items, but honestly, there was a lot more content here than I previously expected. My one gripe with the loot system was definitely how rare weapons were at the start of the game. It felt like I could go through, 5 or 10 loot boxes and still not receive a weapon. However, by mid-game and end-game, I definitely was kitted out, whether that was just from opening enough loot boxes or by finding dead players' loot on the ground after they died. The final thing I want to talk about before getting into some of the pros and cons and opinions on this game mode is how the endgame felt. I was able to get top 10 in 2 of my 3 games, so I did get a good feel for the endgame of the Battle Royale mode. It seemed like everybody was insanely kitted out. Everyone had the best guns, the best armor, and the best backpack. I think this is pretty similar for most Battle Royale game modes, but it was really noticeable within this one. I think the endgame is where the Battle Royale game mode gets kind of iffy. It did feel like a super large mess of bullets, and there really wasn't any cover to hide behind. You were kind of just running around the streets, and you weren't even able to dodge the bullets, so it did feel like kind of a mess. If their goal was to make the most hectic and most insane gameplay, then I definitely think they did it correctly. However, it did just feel a little bit too hectic for me. I am not saying that I am very good at PvP, I definitely am not, I don't have a lot of experience in it, but it just felt like a little bit too much for me, and I think it would be too much for the average player. I think the biggest issue is that when there's so many bullets flying at you, it's really hard to find 3 to 10 seconds to heal, because every time that you get hit with a bullet, it resets that timer. Without any cover to hide behind or any buildings to go into, you weren't really able to heal in the endgame, and I think that made it really hard. So now that I've gone over pretty much everything that happened within the game mode, I want to talk about some of the pros and cons and my overall opinion of the game mode itself. One of the biggest pros that I found within this was definitely the balance of loot. I think the availability of weapons, the availability of ammo and healing and energy items, along with the armor, made for a really enjoyable gameplay experience. Being able to find each of the armors and backpacks and increase their level along with getting better and better weapons just led me to really enjoy the time that I had within the game mode. The second really big pro that I had was definitely the map. I mentioned before that I fully expected them to be making a brand new map for this game mode, and that wasn't the case. I think using the classic Graal Era map made it really easy to find your way around and you weren't really confused where you were, and I think that made for a really enjoyable experience. I also really loved the fact that they covered the ocean on the map, as it would have been so annoying if the circle would have appeared in the middle of the ocean and there would have been just no gun battles to have. So I'm really glad that they didn't overlook that and left something so random in. And finally, I think the biggest pro overall is just the fact that we have a Battle Royale game mode inside of Graal Era. It's definitely something that I never expected to be added to Graal Era, and it makes me really excited for both the future of this game mode and the future of development within the game itself. Now, this obviously was a beta test, so there are going to be a lot of cons and issues that I had with the game mode itself. The first biggest one is probably the item balancing. I think the biggest issue with this was that weapons are just extremely strong. Sometimes you found yourself getting killed in 2 or 3 shots if you didn't have any armor on, and I felt like that was a little bit too quick, especially in the early game. To make matters worse, once you did get damaged or you got out of a gun battle and won but did have some damage taken, it was almost impossible to get healed. With no cover and no buildings to duck into, you were a sitting duck for 3 to 10 seconds anytime you wanted to heal. I think that was probably one of the hardest parts of this game was finding time to heal, so it definitely made the energy and the passive healing one of the most important things that you could get. I can say the easiest fix to this would probably be just changing some of the weapons around, or maybe even making armor less important in the game, or increasing the amount of base HP that we actually start with. Another amazing addition would be to rework the amount of time it takes to heal. It would be great to see bandages and sodas only taking 1 second, and maybe the medkits and potions taking 3 to 5, or even eliminating the timer for the small healing items altogether. The second big con that I had was definitely the endgame and the lack of cover within it. I think if we had added some cover or the ability to even go into buildings, it would add a lot of variance to the gameplay and would also fix a lot of the issues that we had with the healing items. I think my favorite way to fix this would be adding buildings and enterable buildings, because those would change how the map plays, how the map feels. It would unfortunately add camping, but that might even make the game mode more fun. I think going building to building and clearing them out and taking the loot would be a really exciting thing to do within the game mode, and I really hope that they add that. It would also allow there to be more than 60 players playing at once, which I do see being an issue in the future when thousands of players want to play this game. Now, with all that being said, my overall opinion on this game is that it is still extremely fun. All we got to play was a beta test, and it was still one of the most fun times I've had on Graal Era, and I've been playing it for almost 7 years. I could definitely see myself playing this game mode over and over again and not getting bored, so I am really excited for that. I think also if they fix some of the cons that I outlined in this video, it could be such a fun game mode. It is already amazing, and I can't imagine how much better it'll play once these things are fixed or changed. On top of that, they also did confirm that this game mode would have rewards. Now, is that going to look like coins for getting to a certain place, or is it only going to be rewards for the winner? We don't know that yet. However, once there are rewards added to this, I can see this being one of the most popular things to do within Graal Era. And with that, this is the end of the video. If you guys did enjoy it, please go down below and smash that like button, as it does help me out a bunch. And of course, as I mentioned in the start of this video, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the Battle Royale game mode down in the comments below. I'm sure the devs would also read it and get a ton of good feedback from you guys, so I really encourage you to go share your thoughts. And of course, if you haven't already, please make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on any Graal Era news, updates, or anything else. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.